Hi, welcome to this episode of Battery Productions. I'm your host, Javo. During our first segment of our 904 TorqueFlite build, we actually blew the whole transmission apart. Okay, there was one thing that we kind of forgot to mention, and that is the rear support. Okay, so there was a time when I kind of 50-50, I'd either take it out or I wouldn't, but you should always probably do it. There are some passages in here that need to be cleaned out, but we will be doing it all the time now because our friend John Cope at CRT Cope Racing Transmissions turned us on to one neat little modification, and that is to drill a 1/16 inch hole in this channel, so your fluid actually comes in from your radiator in through this little port here, and then into this channel. So there's one hole that we'll need to do that. We'll need to drill here, okay? So what that does is it supplies extra lubrication to the inner race of your Sprag. So, you know, to me it's a good thing. And this actually works well for every TorqueFlite. So be it even a stock rebuild, street strip, or a full race transmission, you should just do this. You should just perform this little tip. And we'll get set up for it and show you exactly where we drill this hole. All right. So, all right. During this segment, we're going to go ahead and clean all our parts, and once I get everything cleaned, we'll get them set up on the bench, and then we'll come back to it and we'll point out parts that need to be replaced. So for the most part, everything will be relatively easy to do, with the exception of the valve body. The valve body is the most complicated part of it, and for this build we've got a Transgo TF3 transmission or valve body rebuild kit, and that's a full manual forward shift pattern valve body. So we'll get set up with all this, and then we'll get back with you. So. And we're back. So what we did so far was, we cleaned our planetary assemblies, all right, and clean these up. You want to make sure you check your pinions. If they don't feel, right, then you want to consider maybe a new part or whatever, which is probably a used part you can get off eBay. This is the rear one. It has the rear annulus inside of it. We took that apart, cleaned it. Okay, so these parts are, for the most part, done. We do have new thrust washers. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and replace these old thrust washers. The sun shell, this cleans up. You can disassemble this further, take this gear out, but for the most part you don't have to. Okay, there's a snap ring here, but this cleaned up really nice. The bushings actually look pretty good. So. I think this was probably rebuilt at one time, and this is our tail shaft here. We actually replaced the bushing of the tail shaft. Okay, that was pretty straightforward. We did smear some RTV around the seal, and then hammered that home. So we did have an issue with it looked like the previous builder or whatever had removed this rear bushing with a screwdriver, and that left the surface kind of marred up on the backside. So because it was marred up, our first attempt at bushing installation didn't go too well. It was grabbing against that marred part. Then also, as you can see here, the bushing is actually one piece, kind of a band or whatever, and then it's put together kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. Okay, so what the issue was when we installed this slot right here that corresponds with the channel inside of the tail shaft. Okay, but there's another slot also in the tail shaft, and this part of the bushing kind of ran into that slot. If we would have took this and just turned it 180 degrees around so it wouldn't interfere with that other slot, it probably would have worked out okay. But I'm kind of glad we took it apart and corrected it. So this one, we just happen to have a couple more of these laying around. So the second time around, it went right in with no problems whatsoever. We do have other parts that are going to take some additional time, and that's the front pump. We actually soak this in the parts washer, just to clean it initially, and then we'll actually go ahead and crack this apart and check the pump. We'll replace this this bushing and seal up here. Okay, we've got that to do yet. Inside the stator, there's I believe there's one or two bushings inside the stator. That actually requires a special tool to remove that bushing. Okay, but for the most part, these don't really get hammered on that much. So, and ours feels real nice, so we're going to go ahead and leave that. If yours would feel bad and you would need to have it replaced, you just take it to your local transmission shop, have them do it for you. They've got the special tool for it. So, all right. We got both our clutch assemblies that we need to disassemble yet and clean up and rebuild. The valve body, we just kind of dunked it. This is going to come in for additional cleaning, of course, because we're going to go ahead and blow this apart for our TF3 build. So this is going to require some holes get drilled in the transfer plate and inside the main casting. And I think you remove a check ball. And there are some springs that get replaced too with heavier duty units. The servos have been cleaned. We still need to replace the seals on these. There are some rings that need to be replaced yet, but we'll get to that. But they're already nice and clean. So our TF3 kit has the 727 version. It actually gets a modified rear servo, but for the 904 we can skip that. I do have a new accumulator for it, and we're going to incorporate this blocker rod in with that. All right. Okay, in our case, we kind of soaked it, but we're going to go ahead and take the case once we get done finishing our modifications to it over the car wash and get it hosed down really good. You do want to take this time to go ahead and scuff these bores with some ScotchBright, okay? And then this can be scuffed also, the support, the rear support. Okay, so what we're going to do to modify this is this is the oil inlet tube. And we're going to drill a hole right in this channel, okay? So what that does is it supplies lubrication to the Sprag, the rear Sprag, okay? So you can see if we drill a hole in this channel here, it'll actually supply fluid. So if you just go ahead and kind of center this up here, you'll actually see kind of right where you need to drill that hole in the channel. So we're going to go ahead and get set up and do that right now. And then we'll take care of those other 3 assemblies over there, the clutches and the rear and the pump, front pump. All right.
Nice.
There we go.
We can see the daylight coming through.
Not too
perfect.
bad, huh? Then we'll take an 1/8 inch bit and just kind of finger chamfer it. There we go. All right, we're gonna go ahead and blow our clutches apart. Take a look at those. Oops. All right, here's what we got. See, they don't look too bad. So yeah, it was probably rebuilt at one time, I think. Yeah, this is kind of goofy here, but I don't know if you can see that or not. But it looks like the previous owner scuffed this this outer drum with like some 80 grit sandpaper, which I'm not real crazy about that. We'll probably scuff it with some ScotchBright. So okay, we'll throw this in our press next. We're going to take this one apart first, and so yeah, before I take this apart, you can see some kind of heat marks on this pressure plate. And usually what I do is if it does look like that, I'll flip it around like what they did here, it looks like. So and Anyway, we'll go ahead and pull this sucker apart. Yeah, this side looks a little better. So the clutches don't look burned up. Look like they're okay. But we're putting new ones in anyway. All right. So that's a wave spring. Then there's a little spacer. Little spacer spring, or spring, but just a solid spacer. All right. Bellevue. Then out comes our piston. All right. So in the piston, you're going to see this little check ball. You want to make sure you clean that. Clean that with some card cleaner and make sure that it rattles around. All right. All right, we'll go ahead and get these parts cleaned up, and then we'll be right back. Alright, so when I started this build, we started out with I think it was a mid-70s, late 70s 904 TorqueFlite. So I bought a kit for that year. So I think there are two versions of the kits, I guess. And I think they start with 1962 or so to like 1972. So this would be considered an earlier transmission. I bought the kit for like a later style rebuild. And so having a little bit of foresight, I went ahead and ordered just a seal kit, all right, for the earlier style 904. Well, I may have had some foresight in that case. I did not get sealing rings for this year. So we'll just kind of cross that bridge when we get to it. So if I need sealing rings for any of these parts, I'll have to determine whether they're good or bad. If they're bad, I've got a stash of them back at my house. But like I pointed out, it looks like this was a fairly recent build. So I almost believe that you could have threw this transmission in and it would be okay. All the seals, the clutches look, fairly normal. There wasn't a lot of gack in the pan, I guess, when we initially took the pan off. So, but even that being said, so some of the seals are, there's like a couple of them that are very similar, but the diameters are just off a little bit. So, like even with these here, they're a little bit just slightly off. If you can see that, all right. So we'll have to just be really careful. Even these here little ones that go in this drum here, they're just off by a little bit. So we'll need to carefully remove our current seals and then match them up against the new seals and see if we can get it together pretty close that way. So anyway, with that being said, let's go ahead and hit this. Okay, so this bore here for this piston, you want to hit that with some ScotchBright too. Just scuff it up because it gets a kind of a wear pattern to it. All right. This looks like it's pretty close. check it against this one. And this one is a smaller diameter, so we'll go ahead and use the first one. All right. So. It appears to fit pretty good. All right, so we'll go ahead and get rid of that one. Set these off to the side here. Oh, for crying out loud. So on this front drum, there's a seal down here, and it's a little tricky to get to, but and I've got these two here to compare it to. It seems like this one here is probably pretty close, and this one's way smaller than this one. So I'm going to go ahead and go with this one here. All right. And there we have it. All right, here's kind of the fun part, throwing this this piston in here. So the lip, the lip is actually pointing downward, and there is kind of a little bevel around this this cylinder part. The other seal that we put in is not gonna put up any bit of a struggle probably, but we'll get some transmission fluid on it just the same. And about the best you can do is just kind of spin it back and forth and put a little bit of downward pressure on it, and just kind of cross your fingers, I guess. But the last thing you want to do is push on this really, too hard, because you don't want that seal to flip up on you, which it probably wouldn't even go down then if it did, but ooh. Oh my God.
Hurry, 5% remaining.
What?
It's recording, hurry.
Yeah, but it's all right. What we do. All right, so here we were last night, kind of struggling with our outer piston seal on this front drum, and usually persistence and patience kind of helps out. But I tell you what, I had enough of it after about an hour or so last night, right? Mm-hmm.
We all did.
When I went up on the internet and kind of researched the issue, initially I kind of thought maybe some vacuum. If you put vacuum right here, and I could actually feel the piston sucking down, but it wouldn't really suck on the lip seal in, I guess. So that didn't really work. Internet led me to fray bodies only. One guy had mentioned throwing some tape around it. So I actually used some electrical tape, and I taped it with a sticky side up initially just for one wrap, and then turned it 180 and then went sticky side down, and then just taped the hell out of it. So you could actually tell that seal drew in quite a bit. Then we threw it in the freezer for, I don't know, about a half hour or so. In the meantime, while that was freezing, we went over to the car wash and power washed our case. So that turned out really nice. But then we got back, we untaped it, and it dropped right in. I mean, it just dropped right in, like I've never seen before. What about you?
It was great.
Yeah.
It took that bevel and just
smushed
flattened
it
it.
down. You bet.
And
nice.
Jay let the battery die in the camera, so we didn't get to record it. But
Whatever. That's not my fault. That's Ty's fault. But anyway, so I tell you what, that's a pretty slick way to do it. So I'd consider that doing it that way every time now, I think. So, but anyway, all right, we're going to continue with cleaning parts. We've got this clutch, the rear clutch pack to rebuild yet. This one here, we got the pump to do yet. So we'll get set up for that, and then we'll show you the details. All right. A little Vaseline, trans lube, kind of on that beveled area. Okay, so that was our first lip seal. Kind of went over the beveled area, and now it's gonna struggle to hit the second seal. Both these seals on this rear drum, they both face downward, so it's kind of double the issue. Something else I forgot to point out was a check ball in this piston. Really hose it down with some carb cleaner, make sure that it's rattling. And I believe this drum here, this has one here also, so you can actually see it right there. I don't know if you can or not, but there's a check ball there. Make sure that that's cleaned really good, and then it is free, operating freely. So the first one was I spun at 180, so that the non-sticky side is. This is going to be easier said than done. Goes around first. Boy, good luck with this. You. Well, come on. So I got the sticky side facing outward, so it doesn't really stick to the seal. And then once I get like one good round on it, then spin it 180, and then really kind of bear down on it, really tighten the hell out of it with the sticky side down now. And you're trying to favor the lip. And you can actually, just by putting the tape on it, you can actually see that it's manipulating that lip seal. So as you can kind of see, hopefully you can see, it's brought this lip seal in. It's sucked it in. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this in the freezer for about a half hour. In the meantime, I'll work on okay, I'm going to go ahead and throw this front clutch drum together. Okay, so the clutch kit I opted for was the Alto Red Eagle clutches. These don't really have any identifying marks as far as like kind of a waffle pattern or whatever, but there is a set for the rear and there is a set for the front. This particular transmission is going to take four rear clutches and 4 front clutches, but you need to pay attention because there is kind of a slight difference in the thickness. So these 4 go to the rear, okay? These 4 will go to the front. They're just a little bit thicker than these are the rear ones here, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and soak these in some trans fluid. As far as the steels are all the same. They're all the same thickness, all right? So So there's a spec between the, this is a wave spring. So there's a spec between the wave spring and the pressure plate. So I'll find out what that is, and then we'll get back with you on that. So then that leaves us 3 steels and 4 clutch discs for the rear clutch, and we'll set those to the side right now. Alright, so we got our front drum put back together. Started out with a steel, and then alternated with clutches until we ended up with a clutch on top, and then we threw our pressure plate on top, and then our snap ring. And for my application, you want 60 to 80 thousandths of clearance, because we're using the Red Eagle clutches. Your tolerances may vary, so you'll have to look that up like in a factory service manual. Yeah, so there's that. So here's our rear drum. Just stay. And we went ahead and froze this for a while, so we're going to go ahead and peel it off. And as you can see, that lip seal is nice and tight. This is going to go right in, I think, with the exception of maybe the center one might kind of be an issue. Because now it's frozen. I got it. Some trans fluid on it.
I mean, you gotta have everybody ready. Go right in?
Well, you know, you freeze it, and that freezes that inner lip, which I probably should have left the inner lip out, maybe.
What do you mean? What'd you freeze? Oh, shiza.
Yeah, I froze the whole thing with this lip in it too. So, and that was a bit of a struggle to go on, you know, initially, but doggone it.
Use your super strong J fingers.
Who has those?
Someone stole from you.
Oh, doggone it.
There. Are you serious?
So there you go. I think next time, what a guy does is just leave the outer one out and not throw it in the freezer.
Yeah.
That part. Because I made that a little bit difficult. But the outer one, it just popped right on.
Once it went past this.
You know, once it went past that belt.
The outer one went
right on.
As
right.
we like to say, funk.
You bet. Funk. Foomp.
Funk.
All right.
Good job, Jake.
Yeah. So next was our Bellevue spring. In our case, we've got a steel spacer ring, and then kind of a wave spring goes in next. All right. So now you have this this oddball kind of pressure plate, and that goes in first. Theoretically. Oh, come on, dude. Oh boy, I just barely got it. Then a clutch. Then a steel. Clutch. Steel. Clutch. Steel. Clutch. Oh no, there we go. And then on top of the last clutch goes the pressure plate. There we go. So for our application, the tolerance between the snap ring and the pressure plate needs to be between 30 and 35 thousandths. And I checked this dry, and that's what I got. So I got 35. Anyway.
So I'm thinking about Tesla swapping my dart.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a good idea. Right? That's one way to blow it up. There we go.
Can't put out a lithium fire.
Right.
God damn, I was hoping to get better rides out of you.
Alright, we'll get back with you. Well, you know what?
What?
I used that snap ring pliers before. Unless you want to get your monkey fingers in there. Your ape-like protuberances. I got enough clearance on.
Nope. Oh,
I'm bringing it up.
bring it up.
Good.
Yeah, try that one. That looks like a ticking time bomb. Perfect.
It does.
Do it again. Do it again. Oh, I almost had it. There it went.
There we go. Nice. Have a nice solid snap sound. Good?
Everything on my side looks great.
All right. There we go. All right. There we have it. There's our front clutch drum. Complete. So when you get these, if you're using these Teflon type rings, you notice they're not really, they're kind of sloppy, I guess. But what you'll want to do is kind of turn them into themselves until they're about half the diameter that they were, and just kind of hold them like this, kind of work them a little bit, and then once you release them, they'll be tight. Okay, so these rings are going on our output shaft. And now they fit nice and tight. Okay, here's our output shaft. Here's our output shaft support, and these rings actually seal inside the output shaft support. Just like that. All right. There you have it. So you're gonna have six bolts on our pump, all right, and then the two halves come apart like that, like so. There are some rings on the reaction support. Okay, remove those. inside the reaction support there is a bushing, and this, from what I gather, sees very, very little wear. It doesn't really get beat on that much, but go ahead and check it, make sure it's good. This one's really, really tough to get out. I've done it before, but you almost need a special tool, and I think I might have used a slide hammer or some type of arrangement for it. But if you need to replace that, you'd be probably better off taking it to a transmission shop and having them remove and replace that bushing. All right. So you want to check tolerances on your pump, and from what I gather, I just use a little short mechanics rule, a machinist rule, and then some feeler gauges. But the spec on this, so this is where having a factory service manual on hand comes in handy. But you'll want 4 thousandths to 8 thousandths clearance. Okay, 8 thousandths would not go in here, but I was able to stick 4 thousandths feeler gauge in between the body and the pump itself. So one thing you want to check on your pump is you want to check these lugs, make sure they're not stressed or whatever, and because these have been prone to snapping off. Okay, that doesn't happen often, but it does happen on occasion. I've actually had it happen before. And no pump, no transmission. You're not going nowhere. So you want to check those over really good. Then we're going to go ahead and remove this bushing here. This bushing usually gets replaced, all right? And I can see some obvious wear on it. And then, of course, the front seal will get hammered out and then replaced with a new one. So I'm going to go ahead and get set up for that, and then we'll be back. Okay, we're getting ready to hammer our bushing in place, all right, and then our pump seal. So as I mentioned earlier, all bushings are kind of created, or all bushings like this are created with a splice. Okay, and I've got it kind of marked with a black magic marker, and it looks kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. But you want to keep that in mind when you install these, because you're going to stake this one. Okay, it'll look like this is the old one that I drove out, so it's actually staked here and here. And the previous builder actually had the foresight to do exactly this, and that is, here's your splice here, and you want to position the bushing so that your stakes are 90 degrees from the splice, okay? Because you don't want to end up with what we had happen with our tail shaft bushing, where we were too close to a channel and it distorted the bushing. We had other issues with that as well, but you can see how that could be maybe an issue. So anyway, with that out of the way, here's our torque converter, all right? And this is how you want to make sure that the torque converter snout is free of defects or burrs or whatever. You might want to dress those out, okay? But this is our standard or stock bushing that we're going to install, and it fits on there nice, all right? The old one actually fits on there as well. But the reason why you want to do that, so after you get done hammering this home, is you want to go ahead and flip this upside down and check it on your torque converter snout, and make sure that it's actually able to turn freely. We actually had an issue with this on a previous 727 build where the bushing was actually a little bit too tight, so we had to, once you install it, it'll actually leave a witness mark where the high areas are, and you'll have to massage those down with, like some emery cloth, maybe some ScotchBright or some fine sandpaper. So, but we just worked it until we got it, and then it actually operated freely. So, something to keep in mind. All right. So if you're hammering this in, you want to make sure that your surface won't damage the machined area of the pump. All right. We're using a vintage Formica tabletop countertop. So these two marks represent my staked areas, and this mark represents where the splice is. So I'm going to go ahead and position this so it's 90 degrees opposed to the staked areas. All right. So I'm going to want to actually insert this so that it's just at the bottom of this beveled area here. Okay, you don't want it to be over it, otherwise a pump will start eating on it. That looks, you can go to more. Yeah, that's not too bad. All right, I've got to go ahead and get my stake. I'll be right back. All right, to stake your front pump bushing, we like to use a little kind of a beat up old chisel, and the tip of it looks kind of like this. All right, you get the same results with like a screwdriver or whatever, just an old beat up flat bladed screwdriver. And you want it to be able to look kind of like this, so it's more stubby, I guess. You probably get the same results with a smaller punch also, but you want this. You want your stake to kind of fill up the recessed area where it's gonna be. All right, so it positively locks it in place. So with that, we'll go ahead and whack away at it. So like I mentioned earlier, the stake is going to have a tendency to maybe distort the metal a little bit. So we'll go ahead and we'll test this out with our torque converter. And it doesn't appear to have an issue. So it's actually free to move. So if you would have an issue, you'd be able to see a witness mark on your bushing, and you'd have to massage that a little bit. But anyway, so it's probably not necessary with this type of a bush or bearing or seal, I guess, because it's already got a coating or whatever. But I just like to go ahead and give it a little RTV. And there you have it. Okay, we'll get set up to get the two halves put back together now. So that kind of completes our pump rebuild. Okay, we have our pump installed in the pump housing, the bottom of the pump housing. And I just loosely put the two halves together. But you can actually see the slop, side-to-side slop. So since these two halves are the same diameter-wise, that's kind of where our hose clamps come into play. So we'll go ahead and we'll tighten these down. That'll line these up, and then we'll go ahead and we'll torque these bolts. I believe the specification is 160 inch-pounds. All right. And there we have it. About all we have left is we'll remove this hose clamp and then install our Teflon rings around here. We've already got our bushing or our thrust washer in place. All right, that about takes care of this. Okay, so here's everything. Here are our, I don't know, 8, 9 individual components. The pump has been rebuilt, new rings, new thrust washer. We got a new square cut gasket around the outside of it. Our rear clutch assembly, it's got new rings on it. They're Teflon also. It's got a thrust washer in here. New clutches, Red Eagle Alto clutches. Here's our front clutch drum. New bushing installed. All new clutches. That's ready to go. Sunshell deal. There's a couple of bushings in here too that can be replaced. Your pinion or your planetary assemblies, they've been all cleaned and ready to go and inspected. Tail shaft is got a new seal, new bushing in the rear. Okay, so that's ready to go. Okay, so these items are ready to go. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stuff our case full of these parts, just to get them out of this area, so that I can go ahead and I'll do the valve body last. All right. So anyway, as far as the case preparation goes, we installed a new shift shaft seal. Okay. I don't know if you can see that. There you go. You want to keep an eye on stuff like damaged components. Like this is our neutral safety switch. You can see it's kind of boogered up. We replaced that with a new one here. All right. I scuffed these bores with a little bit of ScotchBright just so that they seal up good to our Teflon rings. Anyway, then my build requires a 4.2 ratio kickdown lever. All right, so what I was going to do was I backed the shaft out, all right, and remove the arm, and was going to install my new 4.2 lever arm, but lo and behold, the transmission already had one. So anyway, you can kind of tell, you know, if you're paying attention. These marks they identify this as a 4.2, and other ones will have like maybe 2 or 4 or whatever. So, but anyway, keep an eye out. You might already have a 4.2 in your transmission. All right. So I'm going to get set up for installing all of this, and I think that's about it. So we'll get this all put together, then we'll go ahead and tackle our valve body. So we'll see you in a bit.
I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon.
Oh, come on.